a cult leader.
Revcoms is a cult.
They are cult.
Basically a cult.
Obviously a cult.
They are a fucking cult.
Bob Avakian cult.
They're building their cult.
Let's get down to basics. We need a revolution. Anything else in a final analysis is bullshit.
Welcome to the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show. This is episode number 111 on July 21st, 2022. My name's Andy Z. I'm the host of the show, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. You are watching the show of the brainwashed, the dupes of the cult of Bob Avakian. Be very careful. You might learn that there's a way out from the madness of the system we live under, a way to make an actual revolution to overthrow this system that is destroying the environment, that is robbing women of their humanity, whose police murder, incarcerate, oppress, demonize, and degrade in 1,000 ways black people, immigrants, native people whose land was stolen in genocide. Pay attention and be aware. On this program, you will see, hear, and experience Bob Avakian B.A., the revolutionary leader who liberals and a demoralized, defeated, pathetic left are scared shitless to have you experience and engage. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have heard over the past couple of weeks the blowhard rants online, the oinkers on social media, the scare headlines on sordid websites from the so-called democratic socialists who are neither liberals and outright fascists. All these are bullshit and lies from those who despise revolution, who feed at the trough of an NGO-satiated empire. Fools and wannabe actual police who want to pacify you as they satisfy themselves with weak-ass shit while humanity is being led off a cliff. All this and more we take to task in today's RNL Revolution Nothing Less show. So-called progressives opposed to truly liberating progress. Liberals for whom law and order trumps risking something to fight against injustice and oppression, who now find themselves in unity with fascists in their attack on the radically different leader who has developed a whole new framework for human emancipation, Bob Avakian. Bob Avakian, whose life has been dedicated to the emancipation of humanity, who for 50 years, since he came of age in the free speech movement at Berkeley in the 1960s, and then working with the Black Panther Party in their revolutionary days, and who, when others of that generation gave up on revolution, B.A. went to work, hard work, to understand how indeed revolution could be made in a country like this, how that revolution could stay on the revolutionary road, and be a society that people would want to live in and would thrive in as we collectively could go to work to transform the whole world. Bob Avakian has worked on and developed an approach to questions and problems of involving the masses of people who today are profoundly divided, in overcoming all these forms of division and forms of exploitation and oppression everywhere, problems and pathways to an emancipatory society that other political theorists and leaders haven't even begun to think about. The work that B.A. has done is not the stuff of pipe dreams, but is grounded in reality, and a scientific approach to radically transforming that reality. Bob Avakian is completely different from the endless stream of bourgeois politicians who are put forward as leaders, whose goal is to maintain one variation or another of this system of capitalism, imperialism that is founded on and perpetuates itself through a cruel and literally life-stealing exploitation, murderous oppression, massive destruction in all parts of the world. B.A. is a revolutionary who bases himself on the scientific understanding that this system must finally be overthrown through an organized struggle involving millions of people and replaced with a system that is oriented to and capable of meeting the most fundamental needs of humanity and enabling humanity to become fit caretakers of the earth. So be clear. When websites and blowhards warn those of you who have stood up with Rise Up for abortion rights against the brutal life-stealing assault on women's right to abortion and to control their own lives, to get you to calm down, to give up, and to work within the system of their bourgeois elections where you get to choose between defenders of the very system that oppresses billions of people here and around the world, be clear that when they shout cult, this is what they are trying to get you to do. And the liberating vision and the plan for revolution to free all of humanity that Bob Avakian has forged and the movement he leads, the Revcoms, is what they want to keep from you. The RNL Revolution Nothing Less show. That's who we are. That's what we bring. The leadership, the strategy, and the goal for the emancipation of all humanity. If you have the conviction, the heart, the courage, and especially the courage of your convictions, this is the show for you. And we're going into battle, a political fight for this show and this leader. Over the next 5 weeks, we are recruiting you, the audience of the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show, to go to work week after week in a campaign to build the viewership of this, the RNL show, to bring to people far and wide the liberating truth that there is a way out of the madness, that revolution is the solution. It is the hope of the hopeless. It's real and it's needed, and that Bob Avakian is a leader, is a person that you and millions more like you need to know about and get into. And to get this campaign into high gear, on this coming Monday night, July 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and 7 p.m. Central Time and 5 p.m. here in the West, along with my co-host Sunsara Taylor, we are going to host a nationwide Zoom to answer and flip the script on the attacks on Bob Avakian, the Revcoms, and Rise Up for Abortion Rights. We're going to get into why and how challenging and transforming how people think is a key part of making revolution. Look, the most ridiculous lie of all is that Bob Avakian is a cult leader and advocates blind faith.
No, we have to go by evidence and testing things against reality. You have to think critically about everything and not take anything in any book or that anybody says without looking into it and thinking critically about it.
He is the most rigorous scientific person who has developed a way for people of all levels of education to be able to understand and change the world. And later, in today's program, we're going to show an excerpt from a speech he gave in 2012, from which we take the name of our program, Revolution Nothing Less. An excerpt on how the science of revolution is like the Rosetta Stone that was discovered in ancient Egypt. A scientific approach to revolution, the actual reason, the basis for revolution, lies in the workings of the system we live under and the reality that it cannot do away with exploitation and oppression. It cannot be reformed, and the reality that many people yearn for a world without oppression. Bob Avakian goes at this in many different ways, from high theory to biting exposure of the system's crimes to creative and even funny ways. And here I want to play the first 3 verses of a spoken word piece he wrote with music by the great jazz bassist William Parker, all played out.
All played out. We must broadly unite to carry out the fight, to resist the crimes of this system. But on the real revolution is the only solution. So we need to call out things whose time has run out, which keep people in chains, suffering unbearable pain. These things are all played out. Capitalist vultures, big-time and worldwide exploiters, preaching about personal responsibility, ranting about predators and criminality, terrorizing the youth in the inner cities, while you loot everywhere you see, slaughter people and rain destruction through crimes untold, all to enforce your rule and amass your gold on the backs of billions, chaining them in slavery, new and old. Your time in history, it's gone. It's all played out. This puffed up stuff about the land of the free and the home of the brave, a country that built itself on bodies of slaves and ruthless genocidal robbery, that spreads its empire through plunder, driving countless people under with its bloody red, white, and blue rag unfurled. All this pompous nonsense about the leader of the free world, that's all laid out. Vicious politicians and mindless mobs, screaming and threatening, hounding people driven from their homelands, growling and howling, speak English, go home. These fools aren't saying anything worthwhile in any tongue. It's the same old song they've always sung. Fade deeper in the shadows, suffer in silence while you slave. To create wealth we crave. It's our way, backed up by violence. This garbage is all laid out.
The haters who have attacked BA, the Revcoms, and Rise Up for Abortion Rights have, in their vicious attack, opened up some real potential by putting these names before hundreds of thousands, if not millions. If we seize on it, to build the audience for this show, to compel and inspire people to look into Bob Avakian, to attract people to get with and to join the revolution clubs. I say this recognizing that the haters who attacked us have done real harm. There has been a trajectory of these attacks, beginning with some pathetic little pro-choice groups who refused to join the struggle to stop the Supreme Court from overturning abortion rights, who the day after the decision launched the first attack on Rise Up for Abortion Rights with the blatant lie that it was a front for siphoning money to the Revcoms led by Bob Avakian. These lies were then repeated by the sensationalist website The Daily Beast, then repeated and amplified by the respectable progressive website The Intercept, and then picked up by the fascist Daily Caller website founded by Tucker Carlson, then mutating to the website Law Enforcement Today. This is the way that counter-revolution works, what we have called on this show a woke, neo-McCarthyist counter-revolution. Joe McCarthy was a fascist U.S. senator in the 1950s who, along with Richard Nixon, went on a national witch hunt to crush resistance and the potential for rebellion and support for revolutionary struggles around the world by tarring people with a Red Scare that did tremendous damage to lives and to the people's struggles.
The only answer to communism is a massive offensive.
Recognizing a communist, physical appearance counts for nothing. He may be a communist. She may be a communist. She may be a communist.
Today's RNL Revolution Nothing Less show is going to work on flipping that script by spreading the voice of Bob Avakian, by demolishing the bullshit of the cancel culture that, truth be told, is canceling the future for humanity. In today's show, as I said earlier, you're going to hear Bob Avakian on the importance of knowing what is the actual reality we face, what is true, and the science of communism to understand the complexity of reality in his piece on the Rosetta Stone. We're going to hear from our correspondent Rafael Kadaris take on and take down that democratic socialist blowhard Hasan Piker. Also today, Sunsara Taylor is going to expose the Intercept's hit piece, followed by a member of our RNL Revolution Nothing Less team delivering the responses of people calling out The Intercept. And last, Noche Diaz, national spokesperson for the Revolution Clubs, will speak about the galaxies at the edge of time, the incredible view back in time of the formation of the universe as seen through the Webb telescope. But first, I want to go back to All Played Out by Bob Avakian and play the last 4 verses, which captures the frivolous yet destructive cancel culture, a desiccated left that mimics the ruling class, and much of the essence of the bullshit that characterizes the attacks against BA, the Revcoms, Rise Up for Abortion Rights, and all of you who took up and are still determined to fight for the right to abortion.
This garbage is all laid out. Tabloid addiction and gossip slinging, treating as prominent what is really trivial, making what really matters seem invisible, acting like mobs in Roman arenas, sneering and snarking with a vicious demeanor, building yourself up by tearing other people down. All laid out! Putting up with all this madness, even though you know it's wrong. Being passive, thinking how they want you thinking, acting just to get along, singing that old song, that though the crimes are terrible and massive, nothing can be done about this, nothing can change, because of human nature. Things are bound to be this way. Revolution, that was tried and it failed. Communism, voice dissent, they'll haul you off to jail. With communism, they take away your freedom. We say that's just wrong, plus there's a new synthesis. There are speeches, books with deep analysis, but you don't read them, won't hear them or go near them. you remain in paralysis. Like that, you're all laid out. A so-called left that, to tell the truth, finds it frightening and distasteful to change the world radically at its root. Disgraceful. A left that is content with posing, devoid of rage or joy, its passion spent, deceiving mimic, miming what it claims to be opposing, rejects the path of revolution, insists there can be only one solution that is viable and desirable, reform within the confines of this system, change conforming to the dictates of this brutal order, talks forever of democracy, cover for dictatorship of bourgeoisie, politics of identity that really comes back down to me. If it speaks of socialism, it is tired out, dried up dogma, no reality, lacking fire, ferment, and conviction, impoverished imagination, lowered vision. The change it talks about is paltry fiction, lifeless, desiccated, can't lead anyone to be emancipated. A left like that is all laid out. This whole damn system, root and source of all this madness, all laid out. Rupture, advance, beyond all that, no doubt. Putting an end to this insanity. Working for revolution to emancipate all humanity. That's what we got to be all about. All the rest that poses and opposes what cries out to be done. It needs to be over and gone. It's all laid out.
Why is Hasan Piker such a crusty reformist? Why does he have the intellectual integrity of Alex Jones? Why is he doing the work of this system? Let's get into it. When he's not playing video games and shilling for the left wing of the Democratic Party, you might catch so-called socialist Hasan Piker attacking real revolutionaries and joining the chorus of haters, from the Daily Beast and the Intercept to the straight-up fascist Daily Caller and Law Enforcement Today, in a smear campaign against Bob Avakian and the Revcoms. This dude literally spent 15 minutes regurgitating lies and slander about us that some random internet trolls put in the chat on his Twitch stream. Here's how it started.
The reality is, like, people feel this way. They feel this way. They see this. They're angry about this. They're apparently part of a cult, unfortunately. Wait, really? What fucking cult? Hey, I see a lot of... Oh, they are a cult? Hey, I see a lot of friends rise up for abortion rights. They are not friends. They are an anti-trans hate group pyramid scheme led by a white male cult leader. What the fuck? Oh, they're fucking Revcom. God damn it, dude. How? How does Bob Avakian pull this shit off, dude?
Revcoms triggered you, Hasan? You're looking kind of shook, man. He was so excited about the message from these young abortion rights activists till some haters told him a scary communist cult was secretly behind it all. White male leader? Give me a break. You follow Bernie fucking Sanders. Your beef with Bob Avakian is that he's a revolutionary communist leader, and you hate revolution more than you hate this system. As for the accusations of cult, anti-trans, pyramid scheme, or the idea that Rise Up for Abortion Rights is being led by Bob Avakian, all this is just made-up garbage designed to attack revolutionaries and keep people out of the streets at a moment when we need to be raising hell. And it's been thoroughly refuted at riseupfораbortionrights.org, revcom.us, and right here on the Revolution Nothing Less show for anyone who wants to do the bare minimum investigation. But that's not what Hasan is about. Why investigate and fact check when you can just amplify random lies that fly across your computer screen? Watch this.
The RCP is often referred to as a communist doomsday cult that's obsessed with Avakian, its mysterious leader, and hastens on to a final emancipation of humanity through a populist revolution.
Speaking of doomsday cult, what do you call it when capitalism is literally destroying the planet and you're so enslaved to the system that all you can imagine doing is trying to push the Democrats a little bit to the left while you talk shit about revolutionaries? Let's watch Hasan promote some more random anonymous accusations as if they're true.
I went to a protest Friday and there was 100% a Revcom guy, or he was a cop. I don't know. Same difference sometimes. He was trying to fight the crowd because we weren't smashing windows and starting fires.
Okay, at this point, Hasan is showing he has about as much respect for the truth as Alex Jones or QAnon. Promoting conspiracy theories because they suit his political objectives, in this case, attacking revolutionaries. Even worse, he's falsely accusing us of committing crimes, thereby inviting the state in to investigate. How ironic that in the same breath, he accuses us of being police and feds. But here's another irony. Besides spreading gossip, rumors, and baseless accusations, one of the main tactics of the FBI in their effort to foment division within movements of resistance and to frame and even murder revolutionary leaders is snitch jacketing, spreading false accusations that people are cops and feds. What Hasan is doing is libelous, it's dangerous, and it's doing the work of this system, whether he's conscious of it or not. As for Hasan's insinuation, which he repeats multiple times, that the Revcoms are provocateurs trying to start violence in the name of revolution.
Anyone that says, let's fucking break some windows at a protest, or anyone that fucking turns to you at a protest and goes, come on, comrade, like revolution now, know that you are either in the presence of someone who's out of their fucking minds, or they are personally a federal agent.
Unlike you, Hasan, we're serious about an actual revolution. That's why the revolution clubs have points of attention that we uphold, live by, and fight for. Point of attention number 6 says this. We're going for an actual overthrow and a whole better way beyond the destructive, vicious conflicts of today between the people. Because we are serious, at this stage we do not initiate violence, and we oppose all violence against the people and among the people. We have a strategy for revolution. Have you read it, Hasan? Matter of fact, have you read anything from Bob Avakian and the Revcoms? Quit spreading bullshit. But let's get to the heart of the matter. Let's get to what all this bullshit is in service of.
How about we enter into the fucking Democratic Party?
Enter into the fucking Democratic Party.
But not with these guys.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. You don't think people should enter into righteous struggles and bring people a revolutionary understanding. You think people should channel their rage into the killing confines of the Democratic Party. The same Democratic Party that commits monstrous war crimes, backs coups and assassinations, and murderous death squads all over the world. That spent decades capitulating and conceding to the assault on abortion rights and did nothing to codify Roe v. Wade when they could have. The same Democratic Party that deports as many migrants as the fascist Republicans or more, and consistently backs the police up when they murder black people. The same Democratic Party that talks about climate leadership while they ramp up fossil fuel production.
Yeah, but we could change the Democrats, right?
Bob Avakian has something to say about that.
If you try to make the Democrats be what they are not and never will be, you will end up being more like what the Democrats actually are. Bob Avakian, Basics, 312.
And now we get to the icing on the cake. When you're too cowardly to take on our actual positions and you have no evidence to back up your rumors and lies, one thing you can always rely on is name calling.
Oh my God, Revcom. If you've ever attended a protest and you see some of the crustiest motherfuckers on the planet literally trying to subvert the protest and like acting like they run the show and immediately being like, it's not enough, what's happening at this protest is not enough, and now this protest is like officially a communist protest, revolution now, one of those type beats, Those are the Revcom dudes, okay? You can spot them because they look crusty as a motherfucker, okay?
Crusty? You want to call us crusty? What could be crustier than trying to reform this rotten capitalist imperialist system and joining one of the parties of that system's ruling class and then calling that socialism? Wrapping this up, Hasan, man, I gotta say, this was a sorry-ass performance on your part. I want the 15 minutes of my life back that I spent watching this trash. But since that's not gonna happen, here's a challenge for you. If you're not a complete coward and you have a shred of intellectual integrity, have us on your show. Or better yet, come on the RNL show. Let's debate democratic socialism versus revolutionary communism. Rules are no rumor mongering, ad hominem attacks, or baseless accusations. Just real talk about questions that matter. What's it going to take to end all this exploitation and oppression and save the planet? What's the problem? What's the solution? What's the strategy? And what kind of leadership is needed? To everyone watching, if you want this debate to happen, send this video to Hasan. Post it on your social media and tag him. And to Hasan, hit us up at the Revcoms and bring your A game this time.
The Intercept describes itself as an award-winning news organization. Its policies begin, at The Intercept, we strive to hold the powerful accountable. But rather than take aim at the powerful, a July 24th article at The Intercept titled Abortion Rights Activists Call New Group Leading Protests a Front for a Far-Left Cult. Robert Mackey does the opposite. Mackey directs his aim at the most implacable foe of the most powerful. He directs his aim at the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian. Now, before I get into this, let me note that another big part of what Mackey does in this hit piece is to elevate the voices of so-called veteran activists of the abortion rights movement who did absolutely nothing to fight the overturning of Roe. They capitulated in advance. And then they got mad and attacked Rise Up for Abortion Rights for mobilizing tens of thousands of people in protest, including, yes, thousands and thousands of young people, including 13, 14, 15-year-olds who, by the way, are old enough to get pregnant and be forced to have children against their will and have their lives shattered in that way and have absolutely every right to stand up and fight against this. And Rise Up for Abortion Rights was attacked for a whole host of other nonviolent, disruptive, highly impactful actions. Now, at the Rise Up for Abortion Rights website, there is a response to these attacks from that organization, which I am a part of together with others from very different political perspectives. Next week on this show, I will get into the escalating atrocities facing women now that the right to abortion has been overturned. The child victims of rape forced to cross state lines to get abortions. The doctors under threat. The women who are being turned away from hospitals for miscarriages, forced to bleed out and cramp up for days, risking infection or worse. And the abortion funds, some of whom are headed up by these so-called veteran abortion rights activists who attacked Rise Up for Abortion Rights, who not only are outstripped by the demand of women needing funds and resources to travel when abortion is banned where they are, but some of whom have actually shut down out of fear for their own legal safety, turning their backs on the women they claim to be serving. But here today, I want to focus on Mackey's attack on Bob Avakian and Real Revolution, and repeat my demand to the Intercept that they allow me space and their pages to respond to this attack. Starting in the title of his piece, and then repeatedly throughout his article, Mackey elevates the loaded accusation that Bob Avakian and the Revcoms who follow him are a cult. This is hardly dispassionate journalism. The clear message being sent is there's no need to critically engage or think about the serious, scientific, and ongoing body of work that Bob Avakian has done on questions like why we need an actual revolution and how we could really make a revolution. There's no need to think about the vision of a new society that Bob Avakian has forged for after a revolution that's going to work to dig up all forms of oppression and exploitation. There's no need to engage the roadmap Bob Avakian has developed for how a revolution could be wrenched out of this time of profound crisis, deepening divisions, and the looming possibility of civil war. You see, by attempting to cancel Bob Avakian, Mackey and the haters that he is amplifying are trying to erase revolution. How convenient for the powerful. How out of step with what humanity needs and even the Intercept's own stated policies. The Intercept's policies go on to emphasize a commitment to, quote, truthful and aggressive reporting. Mackey is aggressive, all right, but he is not seeking the truth. Finding the truth requires sifting and following the evidence wherever it leads. It requires measuring that evidence up against something called reality. Mackey doesn't even purport to be offering evidence for his scary and smeary accusation of cult. The best he can come up with is that a lot of people are saying it, and in this case, a lot of woke opportunists and movement hacks. How is this any different than Trump peddling conspiracy theories and lies and backing it up with, a lot of people are saying it?
A lot of people are saying that. A lot of people said. A lot of people are saying.
Many people are saying.
Some people say.
A lot of people think.
According to some people. You know, a lot of people are saying.
Mackey dishonestly claims that we Revcoms are dedicated to spreading the ideas of the former 60s radical Bob Avakian. This is not true. We are dedicated to making a revolution, overthrowing this system of capitalism, imperialism, and we're dedicated to this because we are convinced on a scientific basis that this system cannot be reformed and must be overthrown. And on that basis, we proudly follow Bob Avakian and promote his leadership because he has made breakthroughs in forging the scientific approach, the strategy to make a revolution, the vision of a new society, and the leadership necessary to make this real. This matters. And this is obvious if you read any of the speeches or talks or articles from Bob Avakian. If you go to our website, if you watch this show, anybody honest can tell it's about making revolution, and that's why we follow Bob Avakian. But Mackey erases revolution. This is akin to asserting that Anthony Fauci is simply dedicated to holding press conferences, while ignoring and erasing the obvious fact that Fauci has dedicated himself over a whole lifetime to public health. And it is in the service of that mission that he has done a lot of press conferences. In my article at revcom.us, I expose more fully the utter lack of journalistic integrity displayed by Robert Mackey, the dishonesty with which he approached Rise Up for abortion rights, and the fact that he never reached out to me or the Revcoms at all, despite the fact that we and attacks on us are a major focus of his article. But let me close by emphasizing this once more. By attempting to cancel Bob Avakian, Mackey and these haters are really trying to cancel revolution. And Mackey's article works against and trains the Intercept's readers in methods that work against getting at the truth. And in this way, they put the Intercept's imprimatur of journalistic rigor on what is really a McCarthyite hit piece that can only serve destroying movements and revolutionaries. This is something that everybody who cares about the truth, who cares about justice, who cares about the future needs to stand against and call out.
Good evening and hello. This is Prose, social media correspondent with the Revcoms, reporting today with breaking news. There's a significant proportion of people capable of using their critical thinking skills. This was revealed in the overwhelming response of people on social media to this article by Robert Mackey. The Intercept was peddling lies, distortion, and slander, and the people were not buying it. Here's just some of what they said. I've never heard of this group, and yet this poorly written article does seem to enhance their image as it has all the hallmarks of a hit piece. Vague conspiracy theory insinuations with no supporting evidence and no clear point to it except to boost institutional liberals who were essential to getting Roe overturned. Looks like the Revcoms are the good guys. Bizarre and counterproductive article. Disappointing, yet unfortunately unsurprising. Capitalism is the cult. This article is nothing but absolute trash. Get it in the bin. LOL, so basically the headline should be, abortion rights activists fight for abortion rights? You guys broke the story wide open. Eye-opening. How are they a cult? Nothing in there read like they were doing cult-like things. This sounds more like a hit piece. Scaremongering readers with the term communism? My Intercept. Page Against the Machine bookstore tweeted, as a small progressive independent bookstore in Long Beach, California, who has hosted an event with At the Revcoms, as well as with a wide array of left-leaning activist groups, We feel this article does not paint an accurate portrait of the intentions of the group and its members. When did The Intercept become CNN? With Roe overturned, what good have all the traditional advocacy groups done? Maybe it's time for a more direct form of action. You've been posting such trash content lately at The Intercept that this is worthy of an unfollow. Terrible journalism. Far left cult? Where do we sign up? As if the entire political spectrum currently is not just centrist to fascist. This is just a taste of the disbelief and anger expressed by many who called out this unprincipled attack for the bullshit it is, from people who care about integrity and reporting, who won't stand for this kind of unfounded character assassination, and who care about what is happening to women and support those who are doing something to stop it. We need a lot more of this. And people need to be thinking critically and denouncing baseless attacks aimed at extinguishing resistance and revolution. So if you stand for truth and justice, you watching this now, we encourage you to read the response to The Intercept written by Sunsara Taylor at revcom.us, and we urge you to spread this response far and wide and add your voice to those calling on The Intercept to publish a response from Sunsara Taylor. Post it on your social media, tag at The Intercept and at the Revcoms.
In 2012, Bob Avakian gave a major speech, BA Speaks Revolution, Nothing Less. This 6+ hour speech is a tour de force of applying a scientific approach to the world and to radically changing the world through a revolution for the emancipation of all humanity. Towards the end of this speech, BA speaks about the decisiveness of a leadership that is grounded in a scientific method and approach, and of the masses of people taking up this method themselves. Otherwise, we will continue to live in a world where might makes right. In this segment, Bob Avakian draws an analogy between the scientific method of communism to the Rosetta Stone from ancient Egypt.
All this is why we need leadership. And it sets the terms for what kind of leadership is needed. There are profound divisions in this society and in the world as a whole. Divisions between classes, nations, men and women, between those who do intellectual work and those who do physical work, and other major divisions. These contradictions can't just be wished away. We cannot get beyond them by pretending they don't exist, or that they don't have any effect and consequences, or by redefining reality in our minds. This is not just somehow a matter of narratives, of different versions of reality, nor will we get where we need to go by different people and different identity groups insisting on their own narratives in place of and in opposition to confronting and radically transforming the actual reality we are up against and the possibilities for change that lie within this reality. Here I just want to read something from Basics as food for thought. I won't go into it here, but it's something to think about. Maybe it'll come up in the Q&A, but it can be pursued and should be pursued beyond that. Basics 410 speaks to this critical point. I'm just going to put it out, food for thought. Why is this so, or is it so? For humanity to advance beyond a state in which might makes right, and where things ultimately come down to raw power relations, will require as a fundamental element in this advance an approach to understanding things, an epistemology which recognizes that reality and truth are objective and do not vary in accordance with nor depend on different narratives, and how much authority an idea or narrative may have behind it, or how much power and force can be wielded on behalf of any particular idea or narrative at any given point. Question is this true? And if so, why is it true that it's important to have this understanding in order for humanity to advance beyond a state in which might makes right and things are reduced to raw power relations? To return to the question of leadership, with which this has a great deal to do. We need leadership with a scientific understanding and a scientific method and approach to guide this struggle through all the complications and difficulties, all the twists and turns to finally overcome all these divisions, and first of all to lead people to prepare for, and then when the conditions have been brought into being, to wage the all-out revolutionary struggle to bring this monstrosity of a system down and bring into being a new system founded in radically different relations and with radically different institutions and guided by radically different ways of thinking that can establish a whole new foundation from which to carry forward this struggle together with people throughout the globe toward the goal of communism and the end to any and all forms in which one part of humanity enslaves and degrades another part, and in which the functioning of human society leads to the destruction of the natural environment. Where we can get it, we need the collective leadership of a communist vanguard, that core of leadership, and where we have it, we need to take the greatest advantage of outstanding individual leaders who come forward. All this is a precious resource for oppressed people, while at the same time it is a very serious responsibility for those leading people. Without communist leadership, without leadership that bases itself on and proceeds from the most advanced understanding of communist theory and principles, applying the science of communism to lead people while also learning from them, the cold reality is that the most oppressed masses will be kept out and kept down, messed over, and dictated over once again. There will be no real revolution and no new society aiming for a whole new world. Here I think of the Rosetta Stone. When Napoleon invaded Egypt a couple of hundred years ago, they discovered, or I guess I should say rediscovered, the Rosetta Stone, which was sort of like a tablet that had a story, I won't say a narrative, had a story written in different languages. On the top were hieroglyphics. Underneath that was Greek, and then what's come to be called Demotic. The hieroglyphics were the language as it turned out of the pharaohs in the upper crust of ancient Egypt. The Greek was Greek. And the Demotic was the language of the ordinary people in the Egyptian, in ancient Egypt. They're still apparently working out some aspects of the Demotic. But fairly quickly, they were able to do enough to tell, using the Greek, and then going back and forth between the Greek and the hieroglyphics, that this was the same story being told in these different languages. And it became, as you know, it's a metaphor now, it became a key to opening up all kinds of knowledge. Because the scholars could use the Greek not only to find out what was being said in the hieroglyphic, which turned out it was the same thing as in the Greek, but it opened the key to being able to understand the hieroglyphic written language in a more overall sense. And this opened up all kinds of things which had been previously unknown to people since the time of ancient Egypt. For the masses, especially the most oppressed masses, communism and communist leadership is the Rosetta Stone they need. Reality is very complex. It seems often overwhelming, especially to people struggling just to survive and get through. Tomorrow, your son is shot by the police. The next day, your daughter turns sick and you have no health insurance. Then along comes a movement like Occupy, which says we shouldn't have any leadership. We should have a horizontal organization where everybody can participate equally. Of course, all the real leaders are conspiring behind the scenes. But even leaving that aside and taking at its best interpretation, the problem is you're a woman in Brooklyn in a housing project or in Harlem dealing with the lives of 10 people that depend on you, children and grandmas and all kinds of other people, trying to keep all this together and keep everybody alive and out of trouble. You hear about the Occupy thing, it's difficult for you to even go down there. And then if you get down there, they can do the nice mic checks and everything else. But you're going to be overwhelmed by what they're talking about. You have no experience in this whole thing. You are in the company of graduate students from elite Ivy League universities who have a familiarity and are conversant with all this political discourse. You have things to say, and people may even listen to you. But despite the declarations that everybody's going to participate equally, do you really think that this person, this woman coming down from Harlem, is going to be able to join in an effective way on the same basis of people who have a great running head start in their whole lives and in their college and graduate school educations? And furthermore, we have the problem that not only is there the ruling class, but there are these people out of the middle class who bring faulty Greek to the translation of the Rosetta Stone, who present, according to their own prejudices and their own distortions and their own misunderstandings, a false understanding and vision of reality, and impose that over reality. And so if you're one of the basic people trying to swim in all this, without the leadership that enables you to penetrate beneath the surface and understand the different parts of reality, without the Rosetta Stone of communism and communist leadership, you're going to be shut down. You're going to be discouraged from even trying to take part after a short time. You are not going to be able to play a conscious role in shaping the development of this movement and more broadly the struggle. The Rosetta Stone opens up all kinds of avenues and possibilities for knowledge. Communism and communist leadership provides the means for masses of people to penetrate beneath the reality, to fight through the seemingly overwhelming difficulty of understanding these things and finding the links and the interconnection and the patterns of things, and to be able to consciously act to change the world on that basis. But with this Rosetta Stone of communism and communist leadership, the masses can not only become active fighters to change the world, but they can increasingly themselves become scholars of the language of changing the world. And this is what the masses of people need, and we're not going to let anyone with their distorted translations tell us that we should not be giving the masses of people the opportunity to have this leadership.
People look at what religion calls the heavens. They look at the stars, the galaxies. They can see a small part of the vastness of the universe, and they can imagine the greater vastness of the universe. Or they can look on a small scale, look with a microscope and see a small microbe or whatever, and be amazed by what goes on internally within that. They can ponder the relation between what you can see with a microscope and what you can see with a telescope. This is an essential quality of human beings. Human beings will always strive for this. Far from trying to suppress this or failing to recognize it, we can and should and will give much fuller expression to it. Bob Avakian, Basics 430. In this segment, we want to share with our viewers the awe and wonder of scientific discovery. I'll be drawing from a letter to Revcom.us titled The James Webb Space Telescope, Galaxies at the Edge of Time, Appreciative Reflections from a Reader. The James Webb Space Telescope is the world's most powerful telescope, and it has just recently released its first 5 images. The Deep Field Galaxy Cluster of SMACS 0723, the atmospheric signatures in WASP 96b, the dual imaging of the Southern Ring Nebula, the 5 galaxies of Stephan's Quartet, and the star-forming region dubbed Cosmic Cliffs of the Carina Nebula. Assembling the images itself was a great feat of human endeavor. With the largest of these, Stephan's Quartet, required the knitting together of 1,000 different photos taken by this telescope to weave a complex tapestry of what we are newly learning about the universe. In a viral TikTok, Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist, was gushing and beaming, responding to the first images released by the telescope.
Oh my gosh! The first image from the James Webb Space Telescope! And here it is! Galaxies to the edge of time! Oh my gosh!
Oh my gosh! Galaxies at the edge of time, he said. For not only are these images giving us a look at distant places in space, but due to the nature of images recording light that has traveled for billions of years, it means we are also taking a glimpse into a distant point in time. The images capture light traveling from over 13 billion light years away. That's 13 billion years in the past, and astonishingly close to the theorized 13.8 billion years ago when the Big Bang, which first formed the universe as we know it today, is thought to have taken place. Images of the sparks and swirls, the massive collisions and the emissions of gas and dust all give us beginnings of new insight into the earliest stirrings of the universe which would shape the formation of everything, including us. Look at the photo that Tyson was reacting to. Nearly everything in the image is a galaxy, a group of stars held together by gravity. Each of the galaxies contain roughly hundreds of billions of stars. Astronomers have said that a grain of sand held at an arm's length against the night sky would cover an area roughly the size of what is captured in this picture. Another picture they released, the Southern Ring Nebula, shows two views of a star which has exploded and is sending waves of dust and gas into space. Almost all of the elements that make up our world, like carbon and oxygen, are produced inside the nuclear furnace of stars and are sent out in explosions like this and in other ways. This then lays the basis for a more complex universe, including life itself. The Webb telescope will greatly expand our understanding of how all this happened, and also promises breakthroughs in the search for life outside our planet. All of this is a very big deal. A key dimension of Bob Avakian's new communism is the relationship between the search for truth and getting to communism, a world beyond exploitation, oppression, and antagonistic social divisions. In this context, he has emphasized the importance of seeking the truth about reality in a sweeping way, not just what is immediately necessary or useful, but part of the rich and multifaceted process that needs to characterize the world historic transition to communism. He said it like this, quote, "There is a whole thing being missed if truth is approached in a narrow and utilitarian way. If somebody discovers something about the Big Bang, that will be interesting and exciting. Truths are important just for what they are, because that's the kind of world we want to get to. For what they are. Human beings do need to be amazed. You don't need religion to realize or appreciate that. In the motion of the material world and the interaction of human beings with the rest of reality, mysteries get resolved and new mysteries emerge. Why wouldn't someone with broadness of mind be interested in questions of cosmology in their own right? Cosmology refers to the science and philosophy of the origins and development of the universe. And Bob Avakian said this in Intoxicated with the Truth. This telescope is a huge advance in humanity's ability to see and understand the universe. The 5 images released by the scientists running the Webb telescope give a preview of the kinds of things that this telescope will be working on in the years to come. Go to revcom.us to read the letter of appreciation in full and to get a better sense of how this telescope does what it does. This thing is a product of 30 years of work by over 20,000 scientists, engineers, and others from 14 different countries. All this underscores the fact that science is a collective enterprise. It should know no borders, and it is precious for and belongs to humanity. So we have to note and condemn the ways in which some NASA officials and U.S. government representatives cynically try to claim this major collective human accomplishment as testament to the greatness of the American empire. Some scientists have rightly called out the naming of the telescope after James Webb, who was the first head of NASA with a sordid past that includes developing methods of psychological warfare for the U.S. State Department and purging its ranks of LGBT employees. And the U.S. President, Joe Biden, pitifully proclaimed that, quote,
"These images are going to remind the world that America can do big things, and they remind the American people, especially our children, that there's nothing beyond our capacity, nothing beyond our capacity."
This is remarkably ignorant, given the amount of worldwide collective human knowledge and work that went into the telescope itself. And it rings especially hollow, given that Joe Biden is the chief representative of a profit-driven, capitalist imperialist system which struggles to see anything beyond the edge of its own nose. So with all that, it's worth thinking about the fact that even confined in a society and world like this one, where the capitalist imperialist system overall distorts, mangles, and suppresses truth, science, and the scientific method, while also keeping this scientific knowledge from vast sections of humanity. Even with all that, something like this telescope can be brought forward. In contrast, think about how this points to the unprecedented and yet unimaginable potential of what could really be brought forward in a society and world which does not do this. As another example of the precious, far-seeing, scientific leadership that humanity needs and has, Bob Avakian puts it this way: "Communism will not put an end to nor somehow involve the suppression of awe and wonder, the imagination, and the need to be amazed. On the contrary, it will give much greater and increasing scope to this. It will give flight on a much grander scale to the imagination, in dialectical relation with and in an overall sense as part of a systematic and comprehensive scientific outlook and method for comprehending and transforming reality." Bob Avakian, Basics 430.
So that brings us to the end of this, the 111th episode of the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show. I hope you've been provoked by what we've done tonight. I hope you are thinking more about what's behind these attacks against Bob Avakian the Revcoms, as well as Rise Up for Abortion Rights, and to think about what a difference it makes that this show is out there in the world, that there's the possibility of revolution for the masses of people. And take a look at what these haters, these fools like Hasan Piker are putting forward to people, that the real gutter kind of culture that we have, and that there's something far better possible. That's what this show brings every week. And as we said earlier in the show, on Monday night, my co-host Sunsara Taylor and myself are going to have a Zoom call to which you're all invited. The information as to how to sign up will be on a card at the end of the program. And we're going to flip the script on these attacks. And we're going to get you and get all of us ready to go on a major campaign to get this show seen every week by thousands of people. You're needed for this, and not only are you needed, but humanity needs this show. Humanity needs revolution. It is the hope of the hopeless. It is hope in a dark time. It is the way to the future. So for tonight, July 21st, 2022, I'm going to say goodnight. We'll see you next Thursday night after the Zoom call on Monday. Next Thursday night at 5 p.m. Pacific time and 8 p.m. Eastern time, and figure out the other time zones for yourself. Good night.